Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo and I'm delighted to be joined with our amazing filmmaker Kryzz with the fantastic film Keep Delete. For those that haven't seen it, let's take a look at the clip. Kryzz, thank you so much for being with us. Big virtual hug and congratulations on your film. We really loved having it at our festival. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, it's starting my day with kind of like the energy in the room right now, which is like just the two of us. It's a pretty good way to do it.
I know. Can we stay here and just keep that energy going for every day?
I know, right? I want to talk British TV with everyone all the time.
We're gonna have a nice little secret podcast. We'll do that and we'll release that too, Kryzz. Don't you worry. Listen, do you know what? I just loved your film so much. I've got so many questions. It's so nice when a new idea you've not seen before is right in front of your eyes. But for those that haven't seen your film, tell us a brief synopsis.
Yeah, absolutely. It's basically these two lovers that are still very much in love with each other, because whenever you break up, it doesn't always mean that there's no longer feelings between these two people. So they're going through like a contentious breakup, and in the future, there's this technology that exists where you can selectively erase your memory. You can pick what you choose and what you leave. So they're sort of like going through the allotment process and then eventually go through the memory wipe.
I mean, Kryzz is brilliant. Like, honestly, there's not many films where I'm sitting there and I'm watching it. I'm like, my mouth is open because I'm like, wow, this is insane. What if this really actually happened? And the way you put it together, the idea was just like, again, we've not seen this before. Where did the idea come for you, Kryzz, in turning it? Because obviously you both, wrote it and directed it. Where did it come? How did it come? How do you know you want to turn this idea into a film? Where did your inspiration come from?
I think the origin story for me, whenever anyone asks that question, it's very short. I got my heart broken. I think everyone just kind of like, you give yourself a day or two to just like crawl in bed and like in fetal, eat some ice cream, and then cry it out. But then I like, particularly me as a writer and director, I just like stay in my feels for a little bit and then open final draft and put it all on paper.
Well, I got my heart broken last year too by For the Love of My Life, and so I empathize certainly with your film on a personal level, and I totally commend you for taking something that was personal to you and putting it out there, because I found it very healing too on a personal level. And I just thought wow, sometimes as well, like the emphasis of that love you have for each other, you may be in different places or have moved on or something, but you've still got connection and memories, and just to kind of write those off, it sort of almost made me feel like, no, maybe we should look at things differently. But then can you imagine if you could keep or delete things? Like, how insane that is. And now taking this to the future, putting it in a kind of futuristic concept and all of that, and the way that you did it was like magical. Like, I felt like I was in a different time zone for sure. How was that process for you? Because you certainly made it look super effective.
Thank you. I think for me, so this is a pilot that I wrote. So I basically reverse engineered the short from the pilot, and I just picked what I thought could be a standalone story for the 19 minutes or so that it happens. So I did have all the groundwork, like the deck and the lookbooks and all the stuff that I had made for the show. So it was easy to sort of like sit with the department heads. And even when I was like pitching the idea of the short to the people who funded it, which were like Naleep and Women in Film, and also just kind of like private equity, I had materials in hand that were very thorough. And I was able to explain everything that was in my brain pretty efficiently, because we could sit around a table full of documents and be like, this is what the film is going to look like.
I mean, it just was super effective. Like, I was just, I was like, can I have series, please, Kryzz? Can I have feature? Like,
We're working on it.
Yes, good to hear. We'll definitely come to that. But certainly it's, creating a world is kind of hard as well. Like, even though I know obviously this was concern between two people, did not going into it, was there kind of like any self-discovery after you wrote it that you kind of thought differently, or did things change during that process? How was that for you? Because I'm sure a lot of it was done in like post as well, and just curious for other filmmakers to maybe know some of your strategies and how you did that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had about, I think, 8 months of post production, but before we even shot, I believe there was like at least 2, 3 months where we were working with our post team, which are a huge production house based out of New York. That they fell in love with the script and did it for a huge discount. So prior to shooting, it was all about what's the world going to look like? What's the UI going to look like? What are the color patterns? What is the, everything that we see before we even shot, we knew what that was. So when we got on screen, I even had diagrams of the interface and everything, so the actors knew where they were going to put their fingers and do all the thing. So there was like intense preparation for probably a year before, and then 8, 9 months after. So there was a lot of time that went into it. A lot of people were like, "Oh my god, it looks so good," and I was like, "Yeah," because we kind of like almost put our lives on pause to do this, and obviously during the pandemic, even worse. But for the most part, everything that was on the script and on the lookbooks is on the short. Nothing really had to pivot because we had to work on everything so ahead of time. So we were like pretty clear on what we were walking into.
That I mean that amazing, because I think it really does show you put the work into it, because it was just, I mean, it was mesmerizing. It was really really fascinating to watch. And the actors, let's speak about our actors, because honestly I was just like, I mean, I just like, please, I don't want to break up. Like, this is so beautiful. Like, I really felt their relationship. It was beautiful. Tell us a little bit, because honestly, they were just a dream team there. They just, the way they responded was just gorgeous. And and then for you personally, like in terms of casting, what you're looking for, what you wanted, kind of the outcome of that. And then as a director, like, what's your process? Like, how's that process for you? Kind of, do you let them play? Do you kind of have it well rehearsed? Like, what's your process with that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think I met Wilder. They were so this pilot I wrote during the Joey Soloway's program, Disruptors. So Joey Soloway at one point named me one of the 10 rising TV writers of color. And I got to like write a pilot throughout that program. And I already had a version of this idea of Keep Delete that was about like half an hour, but half-hour dramas don't really sell. So I kind of just like expanded it into an hour long and really went into it. So at the end of the showcase, what they do is you select 10 pages of the script, and they do a showcase, and for like industry people and agents and all those sort of things. So Wilder played Grace in that showcase. And the moment that I saw them, I was like, I need to have you for the short film. Because at that point, I knew that the short film was happening at one point. So I immediately, like during rehearsals for that, I was also the only person who got to direct my own piece in that showcase, because there was like a huge kind of one director for all the pieces, and I was like, I'm a director too, and this is a thing. So I got to direct my own piece, and I formed a relationship with Wilder during that process. So I already had Grace for months before, and then it was just kind of like, how do we find our Kari? And social media these days is crazy. We had the typical casting notices and backstage and all the places, but we weren't really finding someone. So I decided to just throw up a story on my Instagram, be like, hey, looking for an Afro Latina actress for the sci-fi short, whatever, whatever. And then people started screenshotting it and sharing it. And that's how Lorena came to us. She just DM'd me one day and was like, hey, I saw a friend of a friend of a friend posted this on their Instagram story. Let's do it. So we got her tape, and she was amazing.
That's amazing. It's amazing how you found Wilder, and they did an amazing job. And wow, Instagram story works for casting. Look at that, Kryzz.
It
I love.
does. Yeah.
And that's great. It's so nice you had a helpful community to support you with that. And look what you found. You had the best. Fantastic. And then for you as a director, like, this is, obviously this is a relationship that existed. They've got that backstory. How's your process working with your actors?
As a director, my favorite thing to do is to talk things out before we get to set. I always say that if I'm giving you nitpicky notes on set, then I didn't do my job before. I'm very much a like preset work director where we're going to sit and we're going to talk about it. and we're going to sort of like break down the overall story. And then we're also going to talk about like what each scene is and what I'm trying to get out of it. And the first one, or maybe the second one, if everything's good for camera, I'm going to do it as it says on the script. And then third or fourth take, I'm also a director that doesn't do a lot of takes. So 3, 4, I'm going to let you play. And if we have it in one of those versions, then we're going to move on. And that's pretty much how it went on set.
Well, I mean, I just want to be on your set because you're just so well organized, and well prepared, and it works and it shows. What has the reaction been for you, Kryzz, in terms of, firstly, it's fantastic that it's always a challenge when you're doing something set in the future. Then you've got this very unique story, and then how wonderful it is just to see, a relationship which exists in our world up on a big screen as well. How's that process, and how has this all been for you so far?
In terms of the response to the short, it's been jaw dropping, to be honest. I mean, we've been in Oscar qualifying festivals, like BAFTA qualifying festivals. We've been on the biggest genre festival in the world, just Fantasia. They have a partnership with Cannes. And we were there in their like international sci-fi showcase. We were one of the 8 films sort of like representing the world of sci-fi. So it's been, I had my eye on Fantasia. I always said, like, if we get into Fantasia, then I'm happy. And we did, plus we've always been, like I said, we've been getting into these, we got into Outfest and all these other kind of like really big Oscar qualifying things. So I didn't expect that to be the reaction. I knew it was going to be great for the most part. I only saw it as like a proof of concept for the show. But to see sort of like the film have success on its own has been really, really humbling.
Well, you deserve it, honestly, because I'm still thinking about your film and the concept and everything, and it was just so unique, and it's always so brilliant to see something that's such a brilliant, unique idea. What is next for you?
What is next? So I have a couple shows set up in development. I have a show at Universal. I have a show at Sony. I have a show at a couple different places, and I have the feature. My feature that was in the blacklist last year is being produced by Julio, who made Tick Tick Boom, and I'm directing that as well. And I have a feature set up at Film 4 that I'm directing as well. So there's kind of, I believe, like 3, 4 shows and 3, 4 features in development. And I just wrapped writing on Gordita Chronicles on HBO, and I'm also writing on BioShock 4, which is the new next installment of the huge like video game franchise. So it's been kind of just like rotating cycle of like final draft never closing.
I mean, it's so lovely to hear of your successes, and us at New Filmmakers LA are so proud of your continual journey, and you're really out there. You're such a doer, Kryzz, and I'm sure the journey is not always that easy, and everyone sees the smelling of all the roses, but you don't realize the journey you've had to get there, right? And I'm just thinking for anybody else out there that is like seeing this and wanting to follow in your footsteps, and is there any kind of advice that you teach yourself or learn from others that help you on your creative artistic journey?
Absolutely. I think what I've learned time and time again, particularly when you're going into TV development, where it's very easy to, once the show gets greenlit or whatever, to remove a writer, is write something that's like very unique and true to you that they can't take away from you. Everything that I write has a queer Afro-Latina lead on it, who's usually a Dominican. And it's like, you're not going to be able, like, who are you going to replace me with? Because I'm the person, like, the story's being directly told through my lens. So one, always write your truth, because I think truth is, there's something that I say is there's a universality and specificity. So write your truth, but also it just ensures that the project basically can't be taken away from you.
I mean, that's so special, and I'm so glad that you're continuing to speak through your authentic voice, and I love that you mentioned that no one can take that away from you, and no one can, and we're just so happy to know that you're leading this industry and doing fantastic things, and just thank you for Keep Delete, but please keep making more movies for all of us so we can watch them and support them, and thank you very much for being part of the New Filmmakers LA family. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's genuinely been an honor.